Hello, my name is Raúl Rincones. I am from Venezuela, representing Agromarina Biorma Aquaculture. And today I'm going to be talking about the sustainable development of the seaweed industry in Venezuela and the Caribbean based on the mariculture of cumatoids, current status, and new challenges. Seaweed farming in Venezuela and the Caribbean started in the mid-80s. In Venezuela, it was a proposal to a local development agency in order to find a sustainable way to use unexplored seaweed resources. In 1989, seaweed farming became a market-driven initiative based on the demand of a major local brewing and food company interested to process agar and carrageenan to self-supply its ingredients demands. In the Caribbean, seaweed farming was promoted as a sustainable alternative for local fishermen and families who were harvesting a small natural population of several species of agarophytes in St. Lucia that have been traditionally used for food and beverages. Nowadays, cumatoids farming truly represents an alternative activity for the sustainable development of many coastal communities in the region. Among the main cumatoid strain farming in Venezuela and the Caribbean, we have a Capophycus alvarezi variety Tambalan, who was originally grown and developed in the Philippines and also known as Eucuma cotoni. It was cultivated during the mid-70s in Sitangay, Tawa-Tawi. Apparently, the name Tambalan comes from one of the farmers in Sitangay. Capophycus alvarezi was introduced in Venezuela in 1996 as a market-driven initiative. Green and brown varieties of Capophycus alvarezi were introduced from the Danahong Reef in the Bohol Sea in the Philippines to Venezuela in 1996. Both the strains introduced in Venezuela have been commercially farmed in Asia since 1975. Since its arrival, these strains have been introduced for commercial purposes in Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Panama, Yucatan, Mexico, St. Lucia, Grenada, Antigua, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Eucuma isiforme, recently renamed taxonomically as Eucumatopsis isiformis, is an endemic iota carrageenan producing species from the Caribbean. Wild populations in the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, and Belize were commercially exploited in the past as a source for carrageenan. Eucuma isiformis has been commercially farmed at small scale in Belize and the West Indies since 1996, where a traditional nutritional drink called sea moss is prepared. Pilot cultivation trials started in Cubagua Island, Venezuela in 2013, showing very promising results. Among the main cumatoid farming activity in the Caribbean, including Venezuela, we have to mention that Capophycus has been introduced and developed in Venezuela and the West Indies. Also, it was some abandoned cumatoids experiences from Capophycus and Eucuma in Havana, Cuba, in Mexico, and also in Colombia and in the French Antilles, especially in Guadeloupe. Eucuma isiforme is currently commercially farmed in Belize and more recently in Puerto Rico. We're going to see the chronology of the seaweed industry in Venezuela from 1986 to 2020 in the next video. This video summarizes the development of the seaweed industry in Venezuela. Now we're going to continue with the presentation. We're going to also be talking about the Caribbean. Okay, we continue, and now we're going to talk about the export of Capophycus alvarezii from Venezuela in 2019, harvested from wild populations. During this period, a total of 427 tons were exported. There were 3 companies. Inversiones Corben exported a total of 288 tons in 5 different shipments, and Thai, another company, exported 69 tons. In November, together with Agromarina Biorma Aquaculture, we exported 70.3 tons. Capophycus was harvested from the natural population of Margarita after the last venture of cultivation was abandoned in 2001. Here we can see all the different activities of these biomass. It was sun-dry, bale, and exported. Seaweed farming activities in Venezuela can be resumed in these following locations. In the map, we can see in Margarita Island and Cubagua Island, where the current Capophycus activities farming are taking place. And also in the yellow, we can see that there is a previous and new projects that were previously Capophycus was farmed, and now we are resuming activities by the Biorma Aquaculture. And in red, it was the previous commercial farming took place back in the period from 1996 to 2001 in the case of Capophycus. Okay. Occupatory activities, as I mentioned, the species farm among besides Capophycus was Eucuma denticulatum, which was unfortunately extinguished. The cultivation system used was floating raft structures, the depth between 3 and 6 meters, the area 900 meters square. There were these modules of 30 by 30 meters, 275 row 6 meters long. We gave a yield of 550 kilograms per module in a 45-day period, dry. The production was 50 metric tons per hectare per year, the productivity, and the mean daily growth rate recorded between 4.5 to 7.4 during this period. In this chart, we can see the both growth rate from Capophycus and Eucuma, although Capophycus grew very much well, as I said, 7.5 to 4.4. Eucuma denticulatum also grew well, and it was a period of between September 96 to December of 97. Eucuma experimental cultivation in Cubaga Island was tried using both the long line and the floating vertical methods. On both systems, Eucuma was recorded to grow very well. 2017. The long line shows 7.73 daily growth rate, and the vertical floating route 6.69. Currently, the Eucuma farming activities start in 2020 up to the present, the time of this presentation, in June 2021. We have in Margarita Islands and in Cubagua Island. Both are using the floating long line methods, and each long line have 25 meters. And these are the preliminary results from these activities. In Cubagua Islands project, they have 80 ropes planted. As I say, 25 meters. The area planted is 4,000 meters square. The 60 days, they're showing daily growth rates of 5.99, and the total mean dry harvest is about 2,080 kilos, although they are an expanding period. On Margarita Island, on the other hand, since this project started before last year, they have a total of 720 ropes, 25 meters long, a total of 3.6 hectares, 36,000 meters square, and the harvesting is done also every 60 days, but with the difference that they are planted at a bigger size, and the daily growth rate is 4.77, and the mean dry kilogram per harvest production is 18,900 kilograms. The Okumoto agricultural activities can also be seen in this chart. There are 3 projects currently. From this, the Kubagua, all 3 have 10 hectares license. Already see the area farm, and in Coche Island, Biorma Aquaculture is resuming activities and in initial phase. And from the commercial project is Margarita Island, producing 113 tons nowadays. The preliminary financial assessment of seaweed cultivation in Venezuela using a floating raft system, 600 meters square. This raft would be implemented and developed in Coche Island, and we have here that the investment for a farm, a family farm, in this case would be a raft, and the investment is $7,000. If they get a loan, we'll see how much they will earn. We have a total of 8 harvests per year. The beach price has been calculated to be $0.4 per kilogram. This will yield a total of 4,800 kilograms, and it will have a total available per farm per harvest of 1,474, and an individual per month, since there are 8 harvests per day per month per year, will be $246. Considering how much would this be for the farmers and for the people involved in seaweed farming, we have to take in consideration that the current minimum monthly salary in Venezuela is $3.76 per month, compared to the region that are about the average of the minimum wage. Panama and San Vicente and the Grenadines and Ecuador have by far higher. Okay, seaweed mariculture in the Caribbean, the beginnings. The development of the cultivation of the sea species used for food in the Caribbean began in St. Lucia in 1981. The approach taken was to develop low-cost, labor-intensive methods that could be transferred to people in coastal communities. Croceleria activia, a fat-growing species with relatively poor agar quality, was initially farmed through vegetative propagation. Eventually, a fast-growing strain of Croceleria cornea, which have a better agar quality, was farmed. Eucheuma falciforme was introduced to St. Lucia from Belize in the mid-90s, and by 2000, all farmers in the Caribbean replaced Croceleria cultivar for Eucheuma due to his faster growth, remaining free of epiphytes, and also high yield gel content. Capaphycos alvarezii in St. Lucia has been tried on all the different communities, and it was introduced from Venezuela in 2013 upon request of the local fishermen department in order to diversify seaweed farming activities that were carried out in the countries in the mid-80s. Dried seamoss or processed gels are exported to the region, the US, Canada, and the UK for the production of beverages, desserts, and cosmeceutics. The average current price of dried seaweed is about $10 to $20 per kilogram. The average productivity of Capaphycos alvarezii on the farms has been recorded between 45 to 50 metric tons per hectare per year in the first year of operation, and as far as we know, this productivity still remains. The Eucheuma mariculture of both Capaphycos and Eucheuma falciformes are through the use of ropes in the sea on sheltered shallow bays. The system used are floating monolines, propylanes, from vegetative propagation and plastic raffia. They use wooden stakes to fix them on the shallow waters. Seamoss cultivation is done by independent farmers, which plant between 20 to 200 ropes, 10 meters long. Harvesting is done every 6 to 8 weeks, and both dry golden and purple seaweed is usually sold to middlemen or associations who do the exporting. Among the daily growth rates of Capaficus and Isiforme farming protein, we can see Cotoni has shown in a 6-week study a mean average of 9.7%, which is remarkable, and Okioma Isiforme show a 4.5. Sigmux export in St. Lucia exported dried metric tons. A total of 101 tons were exported, being proline community of 38.25 and Opicon, the other community, will lead it with 46.57 tons. Okay, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Seaweed farming in St. Vincent and the Grenadines started in Union Island in 2006 with the technical assistance from Alan Smith from Canary, based in St. Lucia, who also was a pioneer of the work in St. Lucia, and definitely the person who drove this initiative from the very beginning. All the seaweed produced are used as foods and drinks. Okioma Isiforme was introduced from St. Lucia 2006, originally from Belize, and Capafico was introduced from Venezuela in 2011 to Union Island as part of a GGAF UNDP project. We can see here the map of the location of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the locations in the Caribbean, very close to Venezuela, and these are the main cultivation areas. No seaweed farming is taking place in the mainland of Kingston, St. Vincent, the main island. Okioma farming in the Grenadines, one cooperative, AMCO, an independent farmer, has been growing Cotoni for the CMOS market since its introduction in 2011. A smaller amount of Okioma Isiforme are also planted. Due to slower growth, farmers prefer to produce Capaficus sabroaceae, which also yields higher gel quality. As June 2021, a total of 25 farmers were currently farming Capaficus sabroaceae, from which 12 were AMCO members. Productivity is about 45 to 48 kilograms fresh per 30-meter long ropes every 6 weeks, and dried CMOS are sold locally or exported to UK, the US, and Canada. Capaficus sabroaceae in Union Island, we can see it is the way the farm is done. A species evaluated in this study conducted in 2011. We have a 5-week study, and we determined that Capaficus sabroaceae using a net system was the best growing strain of all. Bleach, drying, and packing of farming CMOS in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to export to US, Canada, and the UK food markets. Natural bleaching and drying of CMOS in Union Island is done by covering with plastics. This is also in Miro Islands. It's an island close to Union Island. After the 2 or 3 days of drying and bleaching, they are put in these boxes, and they are exported. The main CMOS farming sites in Union Island are shown in this table, with a total potential to develop 50 hectares. Miro Island is another island where CMOS farming is taking place, seaweed farming is taking place, and they are very active, and we'll see where are they presuming their main activities in the Grenadines. We have in Union Island 6,000 kilograms, a total of 22 farmers. In Miro Islands, we have 33 farmers and a total of 36 tons, 0.8. And Bekia just recently started, only 6 farmers, but they are willing to improve and increase according to them, 682, and the total production for the last year was recorded to be 43.5 kilotons, and the local price varies between $30 to $50 per kilo. The CMOS products made in the Caribbean, we can see that the most common is the gels with different flavors and varieties. Also, the dry is put in these envelopes, and also some drinks are made with some of the alcoholic beverages. Are very popular. The dry material produced has been divided or has been classified as purple and golden. That's according to market demands, and it's sold in the Caribbean, USA, Canada, and UK markets, where they are used for food, drinks, gels, and beverage. This is the raw material. Kappa ficus and Ucuma are the main species used. Golden sea moss is obtained for the natural stone bleaching process, as we just saw, and purple is obtained doing the drying without the plastic, without the bleaching and the shade. The retail prices of both of them varies between $10 to $40 per pound. Among the benefits of sea moss gels has been claimed to be anti-inflammatory, aids in weight loss, boosts the immune system, aids in proper digestion and absorption of nutrients, provide relief to eczema, acne, and other skin issues, supports thyroid, respiratory and heart function, rich in antioxidants, antiviral, antifungal, among others benefits. Sea moss, some of the sea moss products also prepared in St. Vincent and the Grenadine, as you saw in the previous slide. They're just dried and packed, and also they make the gels. This is also another presentation done with milk products. Okay, now we're going to be talking about the environmental and ecological consideration about seaweed mariculture in Venezuela and the Caribbean. The positive impacts recorded is that the cultivation of seaweed contributes to the increase of local biodiversity, since it serves as a refuge and substrate for the larval and juvenile stages of fish and invertebrate. Several species of fish and crustaceans of commercial interest fulfill part of the life cycle within the farms, including lobsters, snappers, and groupers. About 20 species of fish, 12 of mollusks, and 9 of crustaceans associated with crops have been registered in Colombia, Venezuela, and Panama. On the other side, the negative impact, solid waste in the environment and the mooring obstruction of living color, shading caused by marine farms on the seabed, structural build of coral reef, changes in sedimentation, inadequate treatment of wastewater from processing facilities. Among the mitigations for this environmental impact caused by seaweed farming, we can definitely consider the preferably use floating culture system, both monolines and raft, always work from a boat, avoid leaving solid waste in the sea after working on the marine farms, avoid setting up farms near coral reef or seagrass meadows, implement a permanent environmental monitoring plan to know the effects of variation of the natural environmental before and after the installations of operations of marine farms. We also noticed in several locations in Venezuela when seaweed Capophycus alvaracis is farmed near coral communities that they're severely attacked by grazers, especially these species of doctorfish, parrotfish, puffer, and triggerfish. You can see in this picture how this has been severely attacked. Some grazing effect noticed also in Colombia on Capophycus alvaracis is that you can see the different morphologies. This is morphologies are derived from the grazing of usually a juvenile fish who eats the tips. We can see here the two different morphologies. The one on the top has been grazed, and the other one remains normally growing. Okay, a seaweed industry for Venezuela and the Caribbean will definitely create employment in poor coastal in Venezuela and the Caribbean islands, generate alternative livelihoods in the region, particularly those countries severely affected the tourist industry due to COVID-19, promote clean production with simple, low-cost technologies and low environmental impacts, diversify the economy of dispersed communities and possible integration with low bivalve cultures integrated multi-trophic aquaculture systems, generate foreign exchange income and import substitution with local industrial processing of phycocolloids, phytobiotics, agricultural biostimulants. Among the opportunities and challenges that we have primarily identified for the development of seaweed industry in Venezuela and the Caribbean, we have the following. The one on golden are the positive, and the one on white are the negative. The climate, Venezuela is outside the hurricane belt with minor seismic risk. On the other side, the Caribbean is frequently affected by hurricane and storms. Regarding the genetic resources of cultivar, good quality commercial strains of eumatoids through colonial propagation. Although on the negative side, the narrow genetic base, since all the farm material came from the strains introduced for the Philippines in the 90s, as previously explained. This is same situation happens also for the Caribbean, since the Caribbean received the cultivars, especially for Capaficus, from the Philippines. Local seasonal whaling and high fertile waters is definitely a plus. These give, as a result, a daily growth rates of 4 to 7%. The productivity varies between 45 to 60 metric tons. That's also on the other side, on the Caribbean, although there are oligotrophic waters, but due to the high water exchange, due to wind and currents, we still have high productivity between around 50 metric tons per hectare per year. Regarding the suitable area for mariculture, more than 500 hectares on the state of Nueva Esparta and Sucre in Venezuela has been already identified and evaluated. On the other side, in the Caribbean, in St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and Grenada, altogether compile about 300 hectares. The potential conflicts of use for marine farms, well, we have artisan fishing, definitely of consideration in some coastal areas in Venezuela, tourism to a minor extent, and rural development to a minor extent. On the other hand, the Caribbean, the tourism is definitely might represent a threat or generate a potential conflicts of use, followed by urban development, artisan fishing. Processing. Currently, there are no processing in Venezuela, although there is a large potential for phycocolloids, biostimulant, food, nutraceutical, cosmeceutical, and biotechnological applications. Local small-scale processing of gel, drinks and beverage, and cosmeceutics are also done in the Caribbean. The markets export sucralide processing plants in Latin, Asia, and Africa is high due to the quality and the cost of production in Venezuela. On the other side, due to the high cost of labor, seaweed farming might not be suitable for the phycocolloid industry, but definitely for the food and cosmeceutical markets in the region, USA, Canada, and UK, as is currently happening. On the potential uses and applications, processing for biostimulants, phytobiotics, food supplements, and biotechnological applications are also in the Caribbean, as well as in Venezuela. These are very interesting opportunities that we have. The future perspective for development of seaweed industry in Venezuela and the Caribbean, development of production of phytobiotics and biostimulant from marine algae grown in Venezuela and the Caribbean for use in agriculture and animal production. Production of biostimulant for agricultural use, production of raw materials and food supplement for formulation of balanced diets for animal and agricultural nutrition, and industrial processing of phycocolloids, mainly agar and carrageenan. Just to conclude this presentation, I have to say that we have several species of commercial eukumatoids that have been found to be suitable and sustainable grown in the region during the last 30 years, regardless of the narrow genetic base. As mentioned, it all came from cultivar from the Philippines back in 1990s. The introduction of maricultural Capaficus alvarezii have been improved to be successful in Venezuela and the Caribbean without any major environmental impact during the last 25 years. In the case of Capaficus, no major threats or negative impacts to the local ecosystem have been recorded up to date, including of this area where previous farming activities have been abandoned or suspended, in the case of Colombia, Cuba, and Mexico. Both Eucuma and Capaficus have been fully adapted to the local conditions and cultivation systems employed in Venezuela and the Caribbean. There are large areas in the region for the establishment of marine farm, more than 1,000 hectares. Eukumatoids mariculture can provide alternative livelihoods throughout value chain, particularly in the food, nutraceutic, and cosmeceutic markets, integrating valuable entrepreneurships with the tourist industry. Seaweed industry can generate employment, foreign exchange, solve nutritional deficiencies, and is friendly to the environment. With this, I conclude, and I really appreciate it, and thank you very much for your attention.